Have you ever gone from rags to riches? Drake once said, "Never let success get to your head," and my parents lived by that. You see, my entire family is made up of new money millionaires, but my parents always wanted me to grow up humble and not to be one of girls where being rich is like a personality trait. So pretty much all of my clothes were from Goodwill or Marshalls. None of us had any Apple products, and even our dog Lucky was only allowed the off-brand dog food. And at first, I hated them for it, because I'd watch those "I'm not trying to brag" Christmas hauls and wish that I could make one too. Or I'd see girls my age only wearing designer makeup and clothes and envy them with all my heart. It wasn't until I turned 15 that I could really appreciate it. I was sitting in the back of my English class when one of my friends walked in. One of the richest girls in the school turned to her friend and said, "If my parents couldn't afford first-hand clothing, I would actually unalive myself." They both proceeded to thrash around their desks while laughing, as if it was the funniest thing known to mankind. That's when I finally started to be grateful that my parents had raised me right. And I guess my parents noticed me being more humble and modest, because that's when they began to spend a little more money on me. Nothing crazy, just an extra trip or something a year. It was around this time that we planned to hang out with my Aunt Madison. She was basically the opposite of my parents, always smelled like Chanel perfume, wore solid gold jewelry, drove a pink Tesla. So up until this point, I hadn't seen her much, and she insisted that we go on a boat trip with her together, on a boat she owned. I remember we looked so out of place, because the boat was more like a mini yacht, and my aunt was wearing a Prada swimsuit with Gucci sandals, while me and my parents were wearing secondhand Shein LOL. But at around 4 p.m., the weather took a huge turn, and the driver started to turn the yacht around. I myself was hit with extreme seasickness, so I went below the deck to lie down in the bedroom. When we finally made it to shore, I ran out to laugh with my parents about how funny that was, except I couldn't see them anywhere. My aunt had this look of pity plastered on her face, dabbing her eyes with a cloth while no actual tears came out. They didn't make it. Her voice was dramatic and loud, the color drained from my face. The water got so choppy they fell overboard, and we didn't even realize it until it was too late. I fell to the ground in pain. My aunt waved at someone to carry me to the car, where a chauffeur drove me to her home. Anytime I tried to speak, no words came out. I spent the next few days glued to my mattress. Back then, I trusted that she was doing everything she could to find my parents, and after just 3 days, she did. Their bodies were so disfigured that it barely looked like them anymore, but it was enough to put in the casket and hold a funeral. I was going to wear a black dress my mom got me for my birthday, because it still smelled like her. But when I opened my wardrobe, everything was gone. "You're a wealthy woman, and it's time to start acting like it." Her voice was cold, and she handed me a sequined black ball gown. So the only thing I had left of my parents was our dog, Lucky. Every night I cried, he would plop himself beside me on the bed and sigh. It was like he knew what was going on. He was the only one I felt safe being sad around, because whenever my aunt saw me looking even just a little gloomy, she would hand me a gift, each one more extravagant than the last. The beige Marc Jacobs tote bag, the newest iPhone, AirPod Maxes. It got to the point that she had spent so much money on trying to cheer me up that I felt guilty for ever grieving around her, and that's how Lucky became my lifeline. Every night I'd sit curled up in my huge white silk bed sheets, feeling completely empty, and Lucky would sit in my lap and lick my face until my lips formed some sort of smile. His big brown eyes staring at me and begging me to take him on a walk was the only thing that got me out of bed on the weekends, but I'm a pretty light sleeper, so every night right as I was about to fall asleep, I'd always kick him out of my room and shut the door. It was 12 p.m. on a Saturday when I went looking for him. I had just spent the entire morning doom scrolling and crying my eyes out, but I couldn't find him anywhere. That's when my aunt walked in with a dog carrier, except inside it wasn't Lucky, it was a poodle. "I put down that ugly stray that was always bothering you. Meet Coco." I swear I thought she was pranking me, but then she opened the dog cage and forced me to pet her. I ran back up to my room without saying a word. I remember staring at all the expensive BS in my room, trying to think of a genuine reason as to why I shouldn't just unalive myself. And that's when I heard my aunt on the phone downstairs. She was talking louder than usual, and I was nosy, so I opened my door quietly to eavesdrop. Of course I had to get rid of them. What they were doing was practically abuse. No girl should ever have to grow up in poverty. My heart dropped. It was all on purpose. Full story on channel, link below.